So then, if you awaken from this illusion and you understand that black implies white, self implies other, life implies death, or shall I say, death implies life, you can feel yourself not as a stranger in the world, not as something here on probation, not as something that has arrived here by fluke, but you can begin to feel your own existence as absolutely fundamental. What you are basically, deep, deep down, far, far in, is simply the fabric and structure of existence itself. Let's suppose that you were able every night to dream any dream you wanted to dream. And that you could, for example, have the power within one night to dream 75 years of time, or any length of time you wanted to have. And you would naturally, as you began on this adventure of dreams, you would fulfill all your wishes. You would have every kind of pleasure you could conceive. And after several nights of 75 years of total pleasure each, you would say, well, that was pretty great. But now let's have a surprise. Let's have a dream which isn't under control. Well, something is going to happen to me that I don't know what it's going to be. And you would dig that and come out of that and say, wow, that was a close shave, wasn't it? Then you would get more and more adventurous, and you would make further and further out gambles as to what you would dream. And finally, you would dream where you are now. You would dream the dream of living the life that you are actually living today. That would be within the infinite multiplicity of choices you would have, of playing that you weren't God. Because the whole nature of the Godhead, according to this idea, is to play that he's not. So in this idea then, everybody is fundamentally the ultimate reality, not God in a politically kingly sense, but God in the sense of being the self, the deep down basic whatever there is. And you're all that, only you're pretending you're not.
We are all interconnected, whether you like it or not. Hello to you all. We are streaming live from Maastricht, which is in the south of the Netherlands. And of course, we're going to take a look at politics and geopolitics, of course. Ja, mensen, we streamen live vanuit Maastricht. Ja, en we gaan natuurlijk een rondje politiek doen en geopolitiek. Het is belangrijk om te weten wat er allemaal in onze wereld gebeurt. So first we're going to take a look at Thierry Baudet. There is a new cabinet in The Hague. We have a new prime minister, which is called Dick Schoof. Last time we talked about it, we talked about Deep State Dick. Remember that? About 2 or 3 weeks ago. Well, he's a prime minister now. And there is this theory going in the Dutch parliament, right? This replacement theory. And you're not allowed to talk about that, basically. You know, because it's a conspiracy theory. Ooh, conspiracy theory. So with the new cabinet installed, they've been talking about this replacement theory, right? And you're not allowed to talk about that and this and that. So Thierry is asking what does the replacement theory imply? Right? And he's going to show some United Nations documents, and he's basically saying, laying out, it's a plan instituted by the United Nations, right? Ja, mensen, het is allemaal een vooropgezet plan, ondanks wat de politiek zegt. De politiek zegt, ja, het is een complottheorie. Nee, het is allemaal vanuit de VN, de hoogste orgaan. We hebben het al over de machtsstructuur gehad. De hoogste orgaan, die implementeert allerlei agenda's. En noem het allemaal op. Zoals de Social of Sustainable Development Goals. Ja, die worden ook via de VN geïmplementeerd. En de regering neemt er klakkeloos over. Ondanks welke regering het ook is. Hè. Ja. Dus we gaan zo kijken naar Thierry Baudet. En naar wat hij te zeggen heeft over de omvolkingstheorie. Wat dus eigenlijk binnen het Nederlands parlement niet gezegd mag worden. So here we have Thierry Baudet, and he's talking about the replacement theory discussion, right? And we're going to take a listen to this here.
Voorzitter, het is vandaag een bijzondere dag en ook voor mij een bijzondere ervaring om dit eerste debat te voeren met een nieuw kabinet. Een kabinet dat in ieder geval ten dele onze politieke kleur heeft. Eindelijk.
So he's saying it's a special day because there's a new cabinet that has our color, right? It's a bit on the right side of the political spectrum, which is actually the same as the FVD, even though they are paleo-conservative, right? And they're also on the right-wing spectrum.
Na 25 jaar een beetje rechtsgeluid in de regering. Forum voor Democratie is ook in deze nieuwe constellatie natuurlijk een oppositiepartij. Maar het voelt toch behoorlijk anders dan bij de kabinetten Rutte die we jarenlang gekend hebben. Dichterbij, minder vijandig, met enkele mensen in de regering die ik als geestverwant beschouw. Politieke
So there are people in the government that he sees as political friends, you know, and stuff like that. So he's pretty happy, even though he's still in the opposition party, you know.
Vrienden die ik serieus neem en mijn vertrouwen gun. Het stemt dus voorzichtig optimistisch. En vanzelfsprekend felicitaties richting ambtsgenoot Wilders, ook richting Caroline en Pieter en Dylan en ook felicitaties aan de nieuwe premier Schoof.
So he's saying congratulations to Wilders, Caroline van der Plas, Zilgus, who else? You know, Omtzigt, and of course our new Prime Minister Schoof.
Wij zullen dit kabinet inhoudelijk en constructief kritisch benaderen. We gaan bij ons best doen om bijdragen te leveren die haalbaar zijn, concreet, direct uitvoerbaar zijn en gericht op de problemen waar mensen in het land dagelijks mee te maken hebben.
So he's going to be constructive as opposition, and you know he's going to lay out the things that people have concerns over.
Dus bij deze onze positieve openingswoorden. We gaan er het beste van maken. Maar tegelijkertijd, voorzitter, ik moet toch ook mijn teleurstelling over aspecten van het coalitieakkoord uitspreken. Want op vele hoofdzaken, op vele thema's waar onderliggende aannames bestaan, vooronderstellingen, worden die niet of onvoldoende ter discussie gesteld. Het beleid van de jaren Rutte lijkt op hoofdlijnen toch helaas te worden doorgevoerd. En dat zien we om te...
So the things that Rutte did, right, our former prime minister, who's now Secretary General of NATO, right? He has a higher up position. The same things have been taken over by this new cabinet, right? We're still supporting Ukraine with the war. We're still, in the EU, even though a referendum was promised, right? Nothing's going to change. Er gaat niks veranderen, mensen. Er gaat helemaal niks veranderen. Dit is een voortzetting van Rutte. En eigenlijk wilde ze helemaal geen plan op tafel leggen. En die gebruikte gewoon de blauwdruk, wat Rutte heeft achtergelaten. So they're using the blueprint that Rutte left behind because Wilders had no plan, basically.
Te beginnen op het thema immigratie. Als ik het coalitieakkoord lees, concludeer ik dat het kabinet...
So now he's talking about migration, right?
Wil blijven buigen voor het internationaal recht en het Europees recht. Twee zaken die wij als illegitiem beschouwen en überhaupt niet erkennen. Waardoor het echt aanpakken van de massa-immigratie extreem moeilijk, zo niet onmogelijk wordt.
So he's talking about international law and the European law, right? We have our constitution, our fundamental laws in the Netherlands. But those are gone because we have a higher up constitution, which is the European constitution, right? We are not sovereign anymore. The European Union has more to say over our country than, the Dutch population itself, even the cabinet, So, and this new cabinet is still using those terms, international law, and the other term I just described. And, nothing's going to change.
Wordt. Er komt ook geen quotum rondom immigratie, althans dat lees ik niet, geen maximum aantal. Of zoals je ook zou kunnen doen, een doelstelling dat bijvoorbeeld netto een bepaalde hoeveelheid immigranten netto jaarlijks Nederland moet verlaten. Bijvoorbeeld een negatief migratiesaldo van min 30.000 elk jaar. Dan ben je echt bezig het probleem aan te pakken. Maar niets van dat alles in het coalitieakkoord. Er wordt ook niet gesproken over remigratie. Er wordt geen onderscheid gemaakt.
There is no distinction between migration and remigration, right? We have a first generational, foreign people here, and they don't want to go back, right? So that is a very big problem. We'll get to that.
Tussen bijvoorbeeld Europese of Westerse immigranten enerzijds en mensen uit Afrika en Midden-Oosten anderzijds. Dus of er daadwerkelijk echt iets gaat veranderen, fundamenteel, ik waag het te betwijfelen. Ik hoop het, maar ik waag het te betwijfelen. Ik vrees dat het alleen maar ietsje minder wordt, eventjes.
So if there is really a fundamental change, very hard to say. But maybe a small bit, you can't stop all these laws because the fundamental law that you have in your own country does not count anymore, right? There's a European law. This is why we need to get out of the European Union.
Maar dat de structurele demografische transformatie uiteindelijk gewoon doorgaat. En daar wil ik nog iets over zeggen, voorzitter. Even als intermezzo. In reactie op wat er vandaag allemaal nog meer over is gezegd. Die specifieke term. Omvolking. Naar ik begrijp is het woord inmiddels taboe verklaard. Omdat de gedachte erin vervat zou zitten dat de structurele demografische transformatie van onze landen bewust zou zijn gebeurd. Kennelijk gelooft men hier dat het allemaal volstrekt per ongeluk is gebeurd. Als een soort consequentie die niemand had voorzien. Zo van, hé, wat een verrassing. Als je elk jaar grote hoeveelheden mensen uit Afrika en het Midden-Oosten hierheen haalt, dan verandert na verloop van tijd de samenstelling van je bevolking. Als je me nou, wie had dat gedacht?
So he's talking about importing a lot of people to the Netherlands. The demographic structure changes, because there's more people from outside of the Netherlands than people from the Netherlands, right? But you're not allowed to talk about that. Nope, that is a conspiracy theory. Even though the United Nations, implemented it.
En dus dat als dit allemaal per ongeluk in een vlaag van onoplettendheid zou zijn gebeurd, dat je daarom...
Oops, it's an accident. Yeah, an accident. It's an accident that we attacked Libya. It's an accident that we attacked Syria. It's an accident that we attacked Iraq. It's an accident that we attacked Afghanistan. All an accident. Het ging allemaal per ongeluk, hè. Libië aangevallen, Syrië, Irak, Afghanistan. Allemaal per ongeluk, hè. Ja, het heeft wel voor gezorgd dat er een migratiestroom deze kant op kwam.
Dus geen omvolking mag noemen, omdat geen van de beleidsmakers dit had beoogd. Vreemd vind ik dat, voorzitter. Allereerst omdat het woordenboek de term omvolking eenvoudig definieert, en ik citeer, als verandering van de samenstelling van de bevolking van een land of gebied, zonder dat daar planmatigheid in wordt verondersteld. In die zin is er dus duidelijk omvolking als feit. Volgens de bevolkingsprognose van het CBS zal rond het midden van deze eeuw zelfs minder dan de helft van de bevolking in Nederland nog autochtoon Nederlander zijn. Dan is er dus effectief omgevolkt, een feitelijke constatering. Maar ook vind ik de gedachte, en dat wil ik toch gezegd hebben, dat de massa-immigratie van de afgelopen decennia volstrekt per ongeluk heeft plaatsgevonden, volkomen absurd. In mijn jeugd werd mij geleerd dat nationalisme slecht was. Het zou...
So, he's talking about his own youth. Nationalism was like bad, No more nationalism. That will lead eventually to war, right? And we'll get back to that, to the specifics on that. But that will lead to war, right? And, that is not the issue. They say nationalism or Hitler, this and that, they always point to Hitler. What about Stalin? Even though he killed a lot of Russians, he was also, even though he was also paranoid, he was also, the hardliner, hardline dictator, basically, a Soviet dictator. So, people never point to Stalin. Even though Russia is being demonized, even though when something happens, it's always Russia who did it, right? But we're not gonna compare Trump to Stalin. No. We're going to compare Trump to Hitler, because that's in the conscious collective, right? So think about that.
Onvermijdelijk tot intolerantie leiden, zo niet oorlog. En om die reden, zo werd ons bij maatschappijleer en bij geschiedenis en zo voorgehouden, was het willen beschermen van de autochtone Europese bevolking fout, gevaarlijk. Nationalisme, c'est la guerre, zei François Mitterrand. We moesten divers zijn. Dat was de heersende opvatting, multiculturalisme als ideologie.
We need to be diverse. Multiculturalism is an ideology. That's what he says. And that is what is implemented by the United Nations. You see, there's a world government that decides for the governments of the nation states.
Als overtuiging. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do, zong John Lennon. Nothing to kill or die for and no religion to do. Als dat geen ideologisch bewogen tekst is, dan weet ik het ook niet meer. De heer Timmermans heeft zelf ook meermaals geroepen dat de toekomst van Europa diverse zou zijn. Anders zou het misgaan, anders zou er oorlog komen. De Duitse minister Wolfgang Schäuble waarschuwde enige tijd geleden voor genetische inteelt als Europa niet voldoende immigranten zou binnenlaten. De Britse toppoliticus Peter Sutherland waarschuwde, die later hoge commissaris voor de vluchtelingen werd bij de VN, sprak in het Lagerhuis over het ondermijnen van de Europese homogeniteit als doel van het Europese project en de open grenzen. Hier heb ik een officieel VN-document, Replacement Migration. Het is een agenda, het is een bedoeling, het is een plan van...
So he's showing the replacement migration plan from the United Nations, right? As I've said before, the United Nations is the world government, the body of the world government, right? And they implement the agenda. It all stems from the United Nations. Sustainable Development Goals comes from the United Nations, right? There's a collective of lobbies all around the world, and they have a certain thing that they want to implement, right? And the United Nations uses those lobbies to implement what they want to implement.
Agenda. Het is een bedoeling. Het is een plan van Europese elites. En volgens mij is er niets omstredens aan om te constateren dat nationale soevereiniteit en traditionele Europese bevolkingssamenstellingen al sinds de Tweede Wereldoorlog en misschien al in zekere zin sinds de Eerste Wereldoorlog in Europa worden bezien als probleem. Dus kom er bij mij niet mee aan dat de immigratie per ongeluk is gebeurd of onoplettend. Nee, het is een agenda, het is de aanval van de natiestaat die al decennia gaande is en die gewild werd. Gewild door de mensen die hier de macht hebben gehad. Terug nu naar het coalitieakkoord. Want behalve dat er op immigratiegebied dus maar weinig lijkt te veranderen, of in ieder geval maak ik op uit het hoofd en akkoord te weinig, op andere beleidsterreinen eerder zetting van het Rutte-beleid helaas dan verandering ervan.
Ja mensen, de voortzetting van het Rutte-beleid. Blauwdruk is op tafel. Wilders had geen idee wat hij eigenlijk moest gaan doen bij het regeren. En die had zoiets van, ja, oké, we gebruiken dat maar, wat nou op tafel ligt. Onvoorstelbaar, maar goed, de Nederlander denkt dat hiermee verandering teweeg te brengen. Nee, je bent bij de neus genomen. So the Dutch population thought there was going to be some change. Nope. The blueprint of the Rutte administration is still prevalent in the new cabinet, right? So nothing's going to change, and don't hold your hopes up. It's up to the population to implement change, right? De bevolking moet op de benen komen en verandering implementeren. So this is basically the best image that you can show of a politician, right? It's a wolf, you know, and after I'm elected, I will become a vegetarian. Yeah, you believe that? You believe that? I don't. I do believe in something that you can stand behind, right? Such as the Dutchies. Yeah, the Dutchies. We are in the half final of the European Championship. And of course, we're going to show the tablet here. So first off, we qualified, right? There's a first round of 4 countries, and we qualified for that. We were third, and we got to play against Romania, and we won that, right? And then we had Austria in the pool, and we lost that game with 2-3 or 3-2, depends on how you want to see it. Austria won, and it could have been that we could have played against Austria if Turkey had lost that game, but Turkey won that game, so we played against Turkey. Yeah, that was yesterday, and it was a very exhilarating match. And of course, England played Switzerland yesterday too. And England won by penalties. And now we are in the half final, and the Netherlands is going to play England. And, we as Dutchies celebrated on the streets that we are in the half final. And we're going to take a look at some images in Germany, and let's see if we can find some images. There we go. We found some images, and of course we are proud of our country when they play, but when there's political issues, nope, we are divided. But still, we have one thing that we can stand behind, which is the Dutch 11 on the field. So this was 3 weeks ago in Hamburg, right? And yesterday people were celebrating too. And let's see if we can find some images. Let's see if we can. So here we have the official website of the Dutchies. So we're not allowed to show images of that because of copyright and stuff like that. But let's see if we can find some images from backstage or what. Anyway, this is very interesting. The last time we played in Germany was 1988. And we also won the European Cup, right? So there we have the orange team holding up the European Cup back in 1988. And we also played England back then, and we won with 3-1, right? So who knows? Maybe we will win the cup again here. The Netherlands versus England, 3-1 or 1-3, and we're going to play England again. So will it be revenge for England? Or will the Netherlands prevail? We will see. We will see. Very interesting. But that is the sports section. We hardly talk about sports, but this is something that brings the country together. En dat is wat we need. Dat hebben we nodig. Het land moet bij elkaar komen. Niet alleen omdat we dan een cup winnen, maar ook omdat we heel veel politieke issues op tafel hebben die opgelost moeten worden. En ja, we kunnen het beste doen als één volk. En niet verdeeld, omdat die links is of rechts is of zoiets. Nee. So, we're going to take a look at the French elections. Right? Because the first round, Le Pen's Front National had won many seats in parliament, and the second round of elections is going to come up. It's today, and today we will see who the new president will be, right? So let's take a look at this here.
We've seen a lot of people come in, and we spoke to some of them and asked them how they felt about this campaign that was kickstarted by Emmanuel Macron, and just, you know, it's still the shortest campaign in history, in the history of the Fifth Republic in parliamentary elections. So how have people felt in these times? And they've told us that it's been particularly difficult. They think that this campaign has been very divisive. They've told us that now some of the conversations with their neighbors, with their friends, are becoming difficult, and that in fact they're not sure that coming to vote will change this atmosphere now. Activists are also warning that there's now a rise in racist speech over the past few weeks only. There's 50 politicians and campaigners, over 50 politicians and campaigners who have been assaulted and harassed during this campaign. So perhaps the president's gamble, in order to, you know, create this barrage of against the far right, will pan out. They will not be able to get this absolute majority. Perhaps that will be the case, but despite that, we know that it could come at a cost of a more fractured society here in France.
So there we have that, right? And let's also take a look at Richard Medhurst, because he has a lot to tell about what's happening in the Middle East, right? And let's take a look at this here. Hezbollah is showing off their newly graded weapons and stuff like that, because Israel may attack Hezbollah. And who knows how the sands will shift in the Middle East. But first, we're going to take a look at Richard Medhurst explaining about Hezbollah.
One topic that you see on the news almost every day is whether the Israelis are going to go to war with Lebanon. It's a very, very interesting topic, and you guys know that I've done a lot of coverage about Hezbollah and how they've been destroying Israel's defenses, and now the Israelis are very angry because they're losing in Gaza, and they're also being crushed in the north, so in the front with South Lebanon with Hezbollah, and they can't do anything about it. And what they're trying to achieve now is a pivot from Gaza over to Lebanon, hoping that that's going to kind of wash away their failures inside of Gaza, their military and political failures in Gaza. I'll play you some clips and I'll go more into detail about whether there's going to be a war or not. This is from David Menser, who's the same guy that you might know from Labour Friends of Israel, right? So very funny on the eve of Keir Starmer coming to power. But he's now the Israeli spokesperson. And take a look at what he had to say about Lebanon.
We will use all means necessary to restore security on our northern border. the state of Lebanon and the Hezbollah terror organization, which is operating under the
Can you believe that? Right? What did Richard Medhurst say? Who is that guy?
More into detail about whether there's going to be a war or not. This is from David Menser, who's the same guy that you might know from Labour Friends of Israel, right? So,
Labour Friends from Israel. Yeah. So an English politician. Aren't you supposed to represent the English people, right? Even though you're, Jewish or whatever you are, Muslim, I don't care, Christian, God is too big for all religions, right? So here we have an English politician who aligns with Israel, even though I don't really agree with the state of Israel and the path that they're on, right? Lots of people are like, who cares? Who cares? I care. Many Palestinians have lost their lives because Hamas had kidnapped lots of Israeli people and put them underground, and they did not release them, even though Israel killed their own hostages. It's really amazing. But it's they don't care. Israel does not care. We remember Rachel Corrie, right? And stuff like that. We remember.
Very funny on the eve of Keir Starmer coming to power. But he's now the Israeli spokesperson. And take a look at what he had to say about Lebanon.
We will use all means necessary to restore security on our northern border.
To restore security on our northern border. So you're an English politician speaking on behalf of the English population, right? Talking about your northern border, which is Scotland. It's not Lebanon, even though you're representing the Jewish population of England, right? It's not Lebanon. It's Scotland. Scotland is on your northern border, right? But no, you're talking about Israel, even though you're an English politician and you're supposed to represent English people, right? Very, very sad. And Keir Starmer, that is the deep state swamp monster that you don't want as a prime minister, right? He was involved in the cover-up of Jimmy Savile. He was involved in Tony Blair, right? Downing Street memo and the invasion of Iraq. He was involved in Assange, right? Want to extradite Assange from England to the U.S. He's a deep state snake. He's even worse than the prime minister we used to have. Mensen, Keir Starmer is echt een foute gast. Die moet je niet als minister-president willen. Want hij is betrokken in zoveel schandalen eigenlijk. Van het aanval van Irak tot en met het gijzelen van Julian Assange. Ja, maar hier hebben we een Engelse politicus die eigenlijk de Joodse gemeenschap vertegenwoordigt in Engeland. En die heeft over de noordelijke grens Ja, dat moeten we gaan verstevigen, dit en dat. We moeten hun eigen vallen. Terwijl, dat is Schotland. Ja, Schotland is de noordelijke grens van Engeland. Maar hij heeft het dus over Israël. Onze grens. Kennen we dat nog? Onze oorlog. Ja.
The state of Lebanon and the Hezbollah terror organization, which is operating under the guidance of Iran, bears.
Now, wait a minute. So, you lie about Iraq, right? There were no weapons of mass destruction and stuff like that. You know, you lied about that. We all know. That's on the table, right? And Hezbollah was basically formed after Israel invaded the south of Lebanon in 2006, right? They basically created a militant army resisting Israeli forces coming into Lebanon, chasing Palestinians, basically. So you have that going on, and you call Hezbollah a terrorist organization. Now, wait a minute. Isn't terror like bombing countries and destabilizing infrastructure and stuff like that? Isn't that terrorism, right? So you lie about Iraq. There were no weapons of mass destruction. The whole infrastructure is basically one big hellhole, and it's recuperating a bit, bit by bit, but still it's a fractured state. That's what you left behind because you needed to lie about weapons of mass destruction, right? But Hezbollah, that is a terrorist organization.
Full responsibility for the deterioration of the security situation in the north.
That is not true. That is not true. You see, Hezbollah is involved because Israel attacked Gaza, right? This is why the Houthis are also involved. Yemen is also involved, right? Because they attacked Gaza. So, the ones responsible is basically Israel.
Violation of UN Security Council resolutions 1559 and 1701, whether diplomatically or militarily, one way or another, we will ensure the safe and secure return of Israelis to their homes in northern Israel. That is not up for negotiation. We will use all.
So, northern Israel, right? Do you include the Golan Heights as northern Israel? Because the Golan Heights is basically the place where three countries come together, right? You have Syria, Lebanon, and Israel. We're going to show it on the map, but would that be the northern part of Israel, or are you talking about Haifa, which is also being attacked by Hezbollah, right?
Means necessary to restore security on our northern border. The state.
So he seems very agitated, doesn't he? And the Israelis, they're also sending the Americans, the French, and the Germans to try and calm down Hezbollah. Now, they're trying to do this because France has a little bit of sway and influence inside of Lebanon because it used to be a former colony. They call it a mandate. It's not. And they're hoping that they can achieve something through that. But they're not going to. They're not going to because they won't stop bombing Lebanon, right? So just yesterday, they're dropping white phosphorus. And again, when I say bombing Lebanon, like it's really a vicious, nasty a bombing campaign. It's not like they confine it to military things. It's no, let's bomb children, let's drop white phosphorus, let's kill civilians. I think they've killed close to 100 civilians in South Lebanon, whereas Hezbollah have killed one Israeli civilian. If you can call Israeli civilians, because they all have mandatory military service. But anyway, maybe it was a grandmother or something. I don't know. In any case, they won't calm down. So Hezbollah are continuing to pound the border. They don't care. They really do not give a shit. So all of this diplomatic pressure that they're trying to exert, all of this, sending the head of German intelligence to Beirut, it's not working. Hezbollah don't care. Hezbollah's official position is, when you stop the genocide in Gaza, then we will stop. We will listen to what Hamas tell us. Okay?
And this is why there's a war with Hezbollah, right? Because Israel is attacking Hamas. They're all a band of brothers, even though they're not really brothers of each other. But, that's the meaning of band of brothers, So this is happening in the Middle East, right? And we're going to show the map because people need to basically see what's going on, right? So here we have the Netherlands and Europe, basically. And we're going to the Middle East. Here we have the Balkans, right? Former Yugoslavia. And here we have the Middle East, right? So we have Lebanon, Israel, Syria, Jordan, Iraq, Saudi Arabia. Let's see if we can. There we go. That's better. So there's the blue line, which is not really a border line. It's a United Nations line that fluctuates, right? It's because Lebanon does not see Israel as a nation, so the border is not defined. So you have the United Nations defining that border. But they were talking about the north of Israel, which is Haifa. And, this is basically Israel. But this part here is the Golan Heights, right? And the Golan Heights is basically 3 countries, in one place. So you have Israel, which is the real border is this line here, right? And you have Lebanon, which is a small, thin line there. That part is Lebanon. And you have Syria, which basically has the Golan Heights and stuff. But Israel has annexed it, right? Donald Trump said, the Golan Heights is yours to take. So it's, you can build settlements there and stuff. And, that's what's been happening. Now you have a war, right? Because Gaza intervention, because of the hostages taken by Hamas, and it's basically they want to trade the Palestinians in Israeli custody for more than 30 years off with the Israeli held hostages. So this is what's on the map, right? And this is what's really happening. Now, I'm not a journalist, I'm just someone who knows what's going on, right? Because I keep my eyes open. I don't fall asleep again, right? You need to keep your eyes open. So there's so much happening. There's so much going on, right? We have a new president in Iran. The last president was on a helicopter flight and got downed somehow and lost his life. But we have a new president in Iran, and we're going to take a look at that. Pezeshkan, or something like that. Let's see if we can. Masoud Pezeshkian. Yep. I hope that is the right pronunciation. We're going to take a look at some images. If I wait. So, Iran has a new president, as I've said before, Pezeshkian, or something like that. And Tehran is basically celebrating their new president. And we have found images. So let's take a look at some images. There we go. Iran reformist Masoud Pezeshkian wins snap presidential elections, France 24. And thank you, YouTube, for saying that France 24 is a French public broadcast. I did not know that.
After more than 30 million votes were counted in Iran's runoff elections, the results were in.
Mr. Masoud Pezeshkian is instantly elected president in the 14th presidential election of the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Reformist candidate Masoud Pezeshkian, a heart surgeon and low-profile moderate, claimed over 16 million votes, emerging victorious over the ultra-conservative Saeed Jalili, who garnered some 13.5 million. In his first address as president-elect, Pezeshkian thanked his supporters for showing up with love and said he would extend the hand of friendship to everyone. Pezeshkian is said to represent the dreams of millions of Iranians. For those wanting more social freedoms, he has opposed heavy policing that enforces mandatory headscarves for women, and amid heightened regional tensions in the Middle East and a nuclear standoff with the West, he has advocated for more pragmatic foreign policy to ease relations. A stark contrast from Jalili, who is known for his hardline stance and anti-Western position. The election was called early after the unexpected death of Ibrahim Raisi in a helicopter crash in May. However, those hoping for significant change from Raisi's ultra-conservative government may have to temper their optimism, as ultimately, under Iran's dual system of clerical and republican rule, it's the country's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who has the final say.
Now, you see that old dude over here? You know, that guy over here? He's like the, you know, the higher up. And he meditates all day and, you know, gets messages from Allah or God or however you want to describe it, right? And that will be stated as law. And the president is basically, you know, the closest to that power. And, you know, you can say, maybe Allah said this, you know, so you can interpret in another way and implement it through the political system, right? So Iran has a new president, and very interesting to see whether the country will shift more to a liberal-leaning Iran, right? You know, no stupid headscarf regulations and stuff like that. You know, it's stupid. Stupid. I believe that Allah had said people are supposed to be free, right? You're not supposed to suppress people or God or however you want to define it. You know, people are supposed to be free. You're not allowed to take power over people, right? You're supposed to help people. You're supposed to pick them up and, you know, show them the path forward, right? That's what's supposed to be done. That's not done because, you know, people want power. People want power over other people. A very, very sad fact. And if we look at other countries such as Haiti, right? The last time we looked at Haiti, we saw that Nigerian army, the police army, is taking over Haiti, basically. So this is 8 days ago, and yeah, who knows what will eventually become of Haiti, right? We're going to take a look at this here.
Nous c'est bon petit Dessalines, jodi a nous pas quitter aucun troupe étranger venir assassiner moun dans pays. Au péril de notre vie, pièce sans nous couler, on a continué goumer jusqu'à dernier goutte sans nous pour nous défendre l'intégrité et la souveraineté du pays ça. Et pour pas haïtien, pour ce sol là, nous considérons.
So basically there's an interim government asking for outside help from Kenya, Africa, right? And there's a police force that is in Haiti right now, and you know, they're gaining more people and stuff, and the street thugs, or not, who knows, you know, this guy wants change. He wants to implement change, but he also wants power, right? So who knows, maybe it's a thug, who knows. He also wanted a ceasefire a few months ago, right? Because you have the government, however small that is, you know, fighting off these gangs, trying to fight off these gangs, but the gangs are overcapacitated, right? And you have this former police officer that is now breaking the law.
Yo envahisseur pas jamais bien pied pour nous. Songez au faire nous ça déjà.
So you have Kenyan police officers, military officers, joined by 15 other nations, right? So it's a full-scale war going on in Haiti. So that's what's going on there, right? We also have the Russia-Ukraine war that's still waging, and the lines are shifting and stuff like that, but as I've said before, it's a tactical defense operation that they're doing over there. And basically they're gaining ground and retreating and making ditches and stuff like that. And, just waiting until the Ukrainian army comes. So they have to, go through the ditches and stuff like that. And easy target practice for the Russians. So it's a meat grinder over there in Ukraine, which is still going on. And we also have the Sudan war, which is still going on. And I wonder, right, if President Trump will be president again, how will he solve the Sudan war, right? We will not forget about this. We have the RSF against the SAF, right? The Rapid Special Forces against the Army Forces, Sudan Army Forces, SAF. And we're going to take a look at this here.
What's happening in Sudan, because people are talking about the risk of genocide here in Darfur, in the city of El Fasher.
It's a very dire situation. There is fighting in all directions. Most of the attacks are happening on civilians' facilities, particularly civilians' homes.
We're past warning. For the people on the ground in El Fasher, they don't need press releases. They need protection.
A civil war broke out in Sudan just over a year ago, and there's fighting across large parts of the country. The capital, Khartoum, is barely functioning.
What we're looking at only a year on is near total state collapse.
Sudan is the world's largest humanitarian crisis.
Tedros, yeah, largest humanitarian crisis, right? Yeah, you said the same about the so-called virus. Remember that? We need to social distance ourselves and stuff like that. Yeah.
The world has abandoned Sudan.
So what's actually happening in...
I have not abandoned Sudan, right? I'm showing what's happening, and, the world has not abandoned you. We're explaining the situation. Basically, there was a coup. The military took over with paramilitary, and now the paramilitary is fighting the military, and the paramilitary are also supplied by other countries, such as Libya and the rest of the Sahel countries, such as Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger,
in Darfur, and what's being done to stop the fighting. First, a quick reminder of the backstory. Sudan was ruled by one man, Omar al-Bashir, for 30 years. He was brought down in 2019 in part because of pressure from huge protests. Then there was a short period when Sudan looked like it was on a path to democracy. And among a lot of people, there was a sense of hope. But that democratic transition got derailed pretty quickly. In 2021, there was a military coup, and then, last year, war broke out. It started out as a personal rivalry between these two generals, General Burhan, who leads Sudan's national army, that's the Sudanese Armed Forces, or SAF, and General Hemeti, who leads a paramilitary group called the Rapid Support Forces, or RSF. And basically, you've ended up with SAF and the RSF in a bitter fight to control Sudan. There are many other armed groups in the mix, but SAF basically controls parts of the east and north, and the RSF has most of the west, and most of the capital, Khartoum.
Khartoum is obviously a very symbolic territory, and so we will continue to see both SAF and the RSF fight over that territory, even as they win and lose other territories around the country.
Sudan as we know it has died, and it is now a series of regional conflicts with regional forces defending regional interests.
And that brings us to what's happening in Darfur, which is a huge region, roughly the size of Spain. It's divided into 5 states, and the RSF already has control of 4.
We remember what happened in Darfur, right? A couple of decades ago.
4 of them. Now the battle is on for the last one, North Darfur, and its capital El Fasher, where SAF have a military base and are trying to hold on to the city. For most of last year, there were various truces in El Fasher, where local armed groups agreed not to take sides and acted like a buffer between RSF and SAF. But the latest truce appeared to collapse in April, and several groups aligned themselves with SAF to fight against the RSF.
And that puts El Fasher very much back in the crosshairs of RSF. What RSF is doing in El Fasher right now is that they are essentially trying to strangulate the city. They've even tried cutting off water to the city. That's how brutal this is getting.
There's a strategic sort of logic of at the RSF leadership level, which is to take El Fasher and therefore have control over all 5 states of Darfur and all 3 border points with Libya, with Chad, with the Central African Republic.
If you don't control El Fasher, you don't control Darfur, and RSF knows that.
But if the RSF take control of El Fasher, there are huge fears about what it means for the estimated 1.8 million people living there, especially because there's an ethnic dimension to this war.
1.8 million people living there. We got a country for that, right? We got a country for that. That's called the Netherlands. Yeah. There's a war somewhere going on. Come over to the Netherlands, right? Even though we are the most densely populated country within Europe, but there's a war going on in Sudan. Come over to the Netherlands, right? You get free everything here, even though I, as a Dutch citizen, have to pay everything and stuff like that. So, over here we have Sudan, and basically it's about the west, or the west of Sudan, Darfur, this region here, and we're going to take a look at what else is being said. There's a war in Sudan. Come over to the Netherlands, right? We got enough people here.
Where you have, very broadly, Arab militias aligned with the RSF targeting what are commonly referred to as non-Arab groups. And to understand that, we have to go back to the 2000s. In 2003, there was an uprising in Darfur against the government of Omar al-Bashir. The rebel groups were mostly from non-Arab communities like the Zagawa, Masalit, and Fur, who felt neglected by the Arab-dominated government. Bashir responded by arming local Arab militias known as the Janjaweed to fight against the rebels.
They killed, raped, burned, massively displaced up to a third of the population of Darfur as a whole.
Violence is worsening. The bombing, murder, and rape of innocent civilians.
Genocide there has already claimed 400,000 lives.
Remains of Darfur's dead, brought to the surface by strong desert winds.
Later, the Janjaweed evolved and rebranded as the Rapid Support Forces. And in 2017, Bashir's government made the RSF an official paramilitary unit, a kind of second army. But the RSF kept their strong links with Darfur and the Arab militias there.
The RSF is a monster that the Sudanese army and the Sudanese regime created, and now it's turned on the Sudanese state.
They have become regularized, they have uniforms, but effectively these are the same types of people, same groups of people with the same political objectives.
The RSF has been so emboldened and so empowered to commit such atrocities for over 20 years. It happened before and they got away with it.
So what's happening in Darfur now is basically an old conflict that's being reignited. There's mounting evidence that the RSF and its allies are using similar tactics as before.
War is never good, right? We need to end all wars now. We want freedom. That's what we want. We don't want to be governed by so-called civilians that are so-called experts or an army or whatever. You know, the power structure, in my opinion, must basically collapse. You know, and we need to build a better society out of it, right? We have the military-industrial complex ruling over us, right? We as the Netherlands are part of NATO, even though I don't want to be part of NATO. NATO has attacked many, many countries, and I don't want to be part of that, you know? So NATO was supposed to protect Europe, even though we had a NATO intervention in Afghanistan. Remember that? 20 years of fighting off the Taliban and then leaving during broad daylight, and you know, and the Taliban is back in power for 3 odd years now. And you know, there are still Americans in Afghanistan. Even Dutch people are still in Afghanistan, and they're not allowed to go back to their own home country, right? Because the Taliban does not allow that. So NATO intervened in Afghanistan. NATO intervened in Libya. Remember that? Nah? Gaddafi, oh, Gaddafi, bad guy. Gaddafi, bad guy. We got to liberate the Libyan people, even though that created a power vacuum and created many, many coups in the Sahel, Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. Those 3 countries were overthrown by the military because the government, so-called experts, could not handle it. Right? Burkina Faso was overthrown more times because over there you have a military divided, right? You have a national military thinking of national interest, and you also have a military thinking of transnational interest, such as France. Now, you know, Libya, the fall of Libya created a power vacuum for all these countries, and you basically had the government was overthrown by a French siding military, and that was overthrown by nationalist siding military, and then it was overthrown again by the French military, and now there's a national military, right? So it's a power vacuum, and very hard to describe, but still it's different situation than Sudan, for example, right? So we have that going on. We also have ECOWAS, which is basically a monetary coalition of countries in the western part of Africa, which Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso were part of, but now are not part of because they're overthrown by the military, right? So we have that going on. Algeria and Mali and Burkina Faso and Niger kicked out a lot of French. And so the neocolonialism is going away, basically. And this is why France had set their sights on a specific island near Australia somewhere. I believe it's New Caledonia, right? The French military went there to suppress the people over there. You know, the neo-colonialist days are ending. Basically, you have a war with NATO and Russia can still involve the CSTO, the Collective Security Treaty Organization, which is Belarus, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and I believe Armenia. Are they still in there? I don't know. Georgia had left, but yeah. So there's also the Russian variant of NATO, and they can use that deployment in Ukraine, even though Russia is a big enough country and their military is on full capacity right now. And we also have a better alliance with North Korea. Russia and North Korea have a better alliance. Putin went to Pyongyang, and we're going to take a look at that. If we can find some images. That was 2 weeks ago. Now, President Putin has like an international arrest, right? So when he's in other countries, he's supposed to be arrested. But he went to North Korea, and the North Korean public was very happy, I guess, to see another person from outside of North Korea. And we're going to take a look at some images of 2 weeks ago. Kim Jong-un welcomes Putin with mighty military parade in North Korea. Oh, we are so happy to see you, God, and President of Russia. We are so happy to see you. Yay, 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 yay. Smile or you get killed. Yeah. So that's what's happened in Pyongyang, or what's happened. This was 2 weeks ago, and very big military parade, you know, because Kim Jong-un wants to show off and wants an alliance with Russia and has now an alliance with Russia. And there are North Korean troops actually in the Belarus, as my friend Demcad had said. If we can find that. This is a very interesting person to look at, right? Let's see if we can find that. There are enough videos. Let's see. Israel, Iran. Oh well. We're going to watch another video. This here is very interesting, where he talks about President Biden, right?
I don't have to play.
So we're going to take a look at some images.
To him like he was a child. So he should have been in damage control ever since. It took him a while to get going, but he is now appearing in the media. He is now talking. He had a pretty decent rally recently. I think it was in North Carolina. He was energetic. He made mistakes. I mean, he made mistakes for sure, but he had more energy. He sounded like somebody who could actually put something together. But the problems are still there. Even in his energetic rally, he was making mistakes. I mean, here's what I mean. Let me give you guys a quick little clip. And by the way, this is all going to be about you guys tonight. I want to hear from you guys. So here's Biden at a rally, full of energy. Looks much better than he did previously. Except his message was very clear. He's going to take on Donald Trump. And he's going to beat Donald Trump.
I'm going to beat Donald Trump in 2020 and 2024. It's like, what? Really? Really? This is your president?
Except there's just one issue with, well, anyway.
I'll beat Donald Trump. I will beat him again in 2020.
I will beat him again in 2020. It's like, oh my God. Oh my God. What's happening over there, man? Who's in power, right? Who's in power in the U.S.? I'll beat him in 2020. We're living in 2024, Mr. Biden. I don't know about you, but you are living in the past. And this is because there's this distinct thing called memory loss, right? You have memory loss. You live in the moment, so you don't know what year we're in and stuff like that. You know, it's like, what? Really? 2020. Wait, for the people who just logged in, right? We're going to take a look at this here. We have Demcad laughing his ass off, right?
Here's what I mean. Let me give you guys a quick little clip. And by the way, this is all going to be about you guys tonight. I want to hear from you guys. So here's Biden at a rally, full of energy. Looks much better than he did previously. Except his message was very clear. He's going to take on Donald Trump. And he's going to beat Donald Trump. Except there's just one issue with, well, anyway.
I'll beat Donald Trump. I will beat him again in 2020.
I'll beat him again in 2020.
Oh, by the way, we're going to do it again in 2024.
You'll beat him again in 2020.
I'll beat him again in 2020. It's like, what? Really? Really?
Is it 2020? Is it 2020?
I'll beat Donald Trump. I will beat him again in 2020. Oh, by the way, we're going to do it again in 2024.
There's something called memory loss, right? That's what's happening with Biden. And if you look at the Democratic Party, there's no one to substitute Biden. You know, we have Kamala Harris, which no one likes cackling Kamala, right? And basically, Joe Biden is a corpse, revived. And, you know, it's very sad to see that the country is being run by a president who cannot even finish a sentence, let alone talking two languages, as we do here, right? Even though the majority is English. We kunnen ook Nederlands praten. Maar goed, we zien dus Biden, die zegt dus, we gaan Trump in 2020 verslaan. Nou, ben je toch wel erg ver van het padje, hè? Ja. So, what do you think of this Demcad?
My goodness, that's the president of the United States, and every little mistake he makes is going to be scrutinized. Every little mistake he makes. After this complete disaster, there's all types of reports, leaks coming out from his staff saying that they're scared of him. They don't want to. Yeah, it's you know, there are two parties within the Democratic Party supporting Biden. You have the Hillary Clinton camp, right, which is still prevalent in the Democratic Party, and you have the Obama camp. Now, Obama was a proxy of the Clintons to stay in power, right? Because after Bush, you got Obama, right? And this was to stay in the White House for the Clintons. This was a path for Hillary to be president, right? But we had Donald Trump. Yeah, Donald Trump. Donald Trump was the one, that screwed up their plans, basically. But because the plan was to have Hillary Clinton as the first female president of the United States, right? But Donald Trump won. So they conceded. They laid low, right? And they planned, how can we prevent Donald Trump from being president again? So you have Dominion, which is a voting computer, which you can easily hack. And that is what they did, right? They also did the same in Brazil. I'm not making this up. This was also the reason why Tucker Carlson was fired from Fox News, because he was talking about Dominion and the voting machines and stuff like that. Even try to interact with him. He's in a bubble. He doesn't really interact with a lot of people. There's other reports that Obama had a discussion with him. Now there's a report that Senator Mark Warner is actually trying to get Democrats in the Senate to put pressure on Biden to get him out of there. That's the latest thing we've heard so far, the latest report. And let me give you so everything is accumulating. He keeps making mistakes here and there. At one point, he had a radio interview, and he made another mistake there with that radio interview. And I'm gonna see if I can get that for you guys. The bottom line is he described himself as being the first black VP. He just seemed confused once again. I mean, I don't have to play every single error he makes, because if I... The first black VP. What? Really? Huh? He's confused because he's not living in reality. Right?
So
I did that. I don't know if I would have enough time to really even talk about this topic. It's that bad. But after this whole big mess, I want you guys to call in. I'll leave the number for you guys. After this whole big mess, he sat down with George Stephanopoulos, who was a Clinton advisor, a Clinton guy. So he's a journalist, but he sat down with this guy. It's about as friendly as he's going to get. But one of the questions I asked, well, I would assume the answer to this question. I would have already assumed the answer to this question, but I'll let you listen to it yourself.
And did you ever watch the debate afterwards?
I don't think I did, no.
You don't think you did? You don't think you did? I don't think I watched the debate. How the hell can you be the president of the United States, go on a debate stage, and have an absolute disaster, have something that's so terrible?
Because he does not care. My good friend Demcat, he does not care. See, politics is run by people who don't care, right? They care about power. They care about having power over other people. That's the only thing they care about. They don't care. They don't care. You know, basically you have a female president, right? Because Jill Biden, I believe that's her name, right? Jill. She's in control over the White House. This has happened in past presidencies, you know, during the 30s, I believe. So, you know, you basically have a female president, and her, the prevalent two parties within the Democratic Party are, you know, advising Jill over what Biden is supposed to say and whatnot. So you have that going on, right? Now, I'm not for Trump. I'm also not for Biden. I'm for someone who gives political, structural change to America, right? Such as end the Federal Reserve, end the credit card that the United States has, right? Because many countries are leaving the petrodollar, and we have Saudi Arabia leaving the petrodollar, basically, and now it's in free fall, right? You can inflate what you want, but it's still in free fall. You know, so get rid of the Federal Reserve, get back to what Jefferson once wanted, right? The monetary system, the state has power over that, not the federal state, right? Not the federal government. No, the state has power over the monetary currency. Now that would be a fundamental change within the US, right? So that's one thing that needs to happen. But it's going to be a very hard change because no one really wants to let go of what they know, right? So we're going to take a look at this here old plantation cemetery found hidden behind railroad. Very interesting. Sidestep adventures into history.
Has brought me to a cemetery that is beside these railroad tracks here, and that's pretty neat. It's in the pretty much middle of nowhere, and again today by the railroad, which the railroad was probably here when the cemetery was put here. So it's interesting in the proximity to the railroad. And this is one that Cecil found. that I had no idea about. This is the Stevens Cunningham Cemetery.
Stevenson.
Stevenson? Okay, Stevenson Cunningham Cemetery. And it's actually really beautiful. It looks like all this privet is creating a canopy that's not allowing anything to grow up under it, so that's really cool. I thought it was going to be more grown up than it is. So at some time there was a tabletop style monument out here. That's what these legs are for. That's another kind of false crypt that often get broken. And it looks like someone just put them here. Don't know if the tabletop marker was here.
It's always interesting to see, parts of history that are forgotten, right? We are here to not forget, right? We are here to remember, to spark the light of humanity, right? That is why we are here. That is the message that we are broadcasting for around the world. I don't care who listens. I don't want power. I don't want to be famous. I just want to be free. I am Spartacus. Right? I am Spartacus. There you go. So if you know something about rebellion, this was a mass rebellion. You have Spartacus, who basically used to be a general in some Roman war, and he was cast out of Rome. And he basically held the slave rebellion against Rome. So we're going to take a look at this here.
I bring a message from your master, Marcus.
Basically, you have Rome, Marcus Aurelius, saying to the slaves that they want to arrest Spartacus and stuff.
Licinius Crassus,
Licinius,
commander of Italy, by command of his most merciful excellency, your lives are to be spared. Slaves you were, and slaves you remain, but the terrible penalty of crucifixion has been set aside on the single condition that you identify the body or the living person of the slave called Spartacus.
This is actually Spartacus, right?
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus! Right? We are no slaves to government. We are free people. Even though your mind is trapped within the matrix of illusions. Right? We are free people. I am Spartacus. I want to be free. I don't want invisible chains holding me back. So, let's see what the taxpayer has to say. Right? There you go. The taxpayer.
money draining. They take everything I make and you wonder why I'm complaining. I break my neck to make this money, then they just come and take it from me. My wages ain't that great in the first place. I should be paying you nothing, but they keep on coming, keep on taking. These motherfuckers go ham on me every time I bring them the bacon. And I wonder what it's for. Ukraine, great funding a war. Have we spent enough yet? Should I guess not? Look, here they come for some more. Fuck me, I'm sore. Sucks being poor. You had the same job for the last 6 years, was struggling before. Back when Trump was in office, fuck all the junk that they called him. I never saw any of the shit that people always said he was in the comments. All of it was nonsense. I ain't even trying to write him either. I'm just saying you gotta admit that shit was fine when he was the leader. It was fine when he was in charge. I never saw bills as high as they are. I never got chills just literally thinking about filling up my car. It shouldn't be that way. I don't care about Russia or Ukraine, but I do care about my own country. Is that insane? I care a lot about all the tons of money that we're paying because it's mine, not yours, and I'm the one that feels the pain. I get taxed on my fucking ass for every dime I make. It'd be fine if they would spend my money wisely, but no way. It'd be great if they would take it and pay for important shit that benefited you and me and not just wage your wars with it. And where the fuck are all the liberals? I thought you stood against this shit. I thought the war machine was your enemies with it. Now you want to go to war. Now you want to fight. Now you want to pick sides in a feud where everyone is right. Now you want to get involved and go and blow a person up. I'm just surprised this altercation ain't diverse enough. No one deserves this stuff. I just don't believe the tears you weep. Countries where brown people get bombed every day. I don't hear a peep, you fucking hypocrites. Thought the race thing was your shtick. I thought as long as white people were involved, you don't give a shit. Those are your words, not mine. I'm just wondering why. Why do we have endless money for them and none for Hawaii? Why is it every time Zelensky needs a loan from someone, we're the only ones that give it to him like we owe him something? We got issues of our own here at home that no one's discussing, and they keep growing cause no one in power is gonna do nothing. We're stuck. How the fuck we gonna help somebody else when we can't even reach inside our own pockets to help ourselves? We could allocate that money to our own people in different ways, to clothe and feed and bathe and let them know it'll be okay. Definitely do that. Don't tell me it's not that simple. People overcomplicate this and make it some fucking riddle like can't just feed everyone. Are you insane? You know how much that costs? Way less than we've sent to Ukraine. I know that for sure. You don't have to be a mathematician or a foreign relations expert to figure out that division. You don't have to draw a graph to see it would cost a fraction to solve half of the problems we have and stop them from happening. I'm just saying, what kind of fucking world we living in? So many billions we've given them. When's Europe chipping in? When we gonna start splitting and stirring up the dividends and begin telling other nations it's your turn to lend a hand? Listen, I don't think Ukraine deserves any of this, but I also don't think Zelensky is as great as they said he is. I don't believe the media when they blurt shit on their shows. You'd have to be naive to think this dude's as pure as driven snow. No one is, especially when you run a nation, dog. Your morals are compromised the minute that you take the job. So I don't trust Zelensky, Putin, Biden, or anyone. I don't think any of them give a fuck about all us little ones. All the people of Russia, all the people of Ukraine, most of the people of the USA probably feel the same. We don't want this shit, it's only the elites that do. They line our pockets, they profit from this, but me and you, quite the contrary. In fact, we pay for it with our lives and money. They take chunks of everything we make, and soldiers die for nothing, so they can gain some more power and keep their banks fat, and all we get is table scraps. Fuck yeah, it makes me mad. Fuck yeah, I get upset. We're constantly ignored. Why the fuck I gotta pay for this? I don't want this war. How the Pentagon has $6 billion unaccounted for, but when I do my taxes, I'm afraid to be $1 short. I'm afraid I'll go to jail. I'm afraid I'll do some time if I don't pay you back the money that you wasted. That was mine. I can't keep quiet anymore. It's impossible to shut up. I'm sick and tired of being responsible for all your fuck-ups. But the question is, what we gonna do about it? There's never a plan of action. All we seem to do is shout it, and I'm guilty of it too. Always bitching and complaining, never walking, always talking, always lipping off and saying I'ma do shit, but I don't. And to be honest with you, that's the reason I don't make a lot of songs, and that's the truth. I'm sick of bumping my gums. I'm tired of flapping my jibs. Something needs to be done, and I don't know if rapping is it. We need a real solution, but we need to get together first, because unless we're all in this as a whole, it'll never work. However, what do I know? I'm just a moron with a pen, but there's power in numbers, and there's more of us than them.
The table is tilted, folks. The game is rigged, and nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. Good, honest, hard-working people, white collar, blue collar, doesn't matter what color shirt you have on, continue to elect these rich cocksuckers who don't give a fuck about them. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about you at all, at all, at all.
Yep, they don't care. They don't care. Over here in the Netherlands, we have something within the rights that we have as Dutch population, which is bed, bot en brood, which means bed, bath, and breakfast, right? So, and that is something that the government cannot give us. Now, we as a Dutch population, we're crazy about soccer and stuff, but we also are empathetic. At least a small fraction of the population is empathetic to other people, right? There's someone that was recently in the news in the Netherlands, someone living in a car, and basically you have Dutch people saying, we have a house for you, contact us. We have a house and we are here to support you. So we're going to take a look at that, and then we're going to close off. Nou mensen, het is beschamend. De Nederlandse staat moet bed en brood geven. En dat doen ze dus niet. En maar wat wel mooi is om te zien dat er toch mensen om elkaar geven. En ik hoop dat dit ook gedeeld wordt. Op deze manier geeft een goede voorbeeld hoe we eigenlijk voor elkaar moeten opkomen.
Hallo, ik ben Ad Havenkamp, founder van BMC Oranje. Wij hebben gisteren vernomen op Hart van Nederland dat eigenlijk de Nederlandse staat een meisje met een baby niet wil helpen voor een slaapplaats omdat ze weer naar haar autootje slaapt. Dat was gisteren in de uitzending. Dus uiteindelijk willen wij een oproep doen aan het meisje. Als je ons bericht leest of ziet, neem contact op met het Facebook van MC Oranje. Zodat wij jou een slaapplek kunnen bieden. Wij hebben namelijk een huisje waar jij tijdelijk in kan blijven met jouw baby. En zodat jij weer een tijdelijke opvang krijgt. Of ergens een huisje van de gemeente of van de staat. Wat zij horen te doen. Want ze horen jou gewoon een plekje aan te bieden. Maar wij doen het uit ons hart naar jou toe. Wij hebben een compleet huisje voor jou. Waar jij vleugelpakketten kan blijven. Zodat jij niet in de auto hoeft te slapen. En niet op straat rond hoeft te lopen. Dus die veiligheid willen we jou garanderen. Dus neem alsjeblieft contact op Messenger, op Facebook, MC Oranje. En vraag gewoon naar founder Oranje. Wij gaan dat voor jou regelen. Jij hebt slaap vanaf hier, heb jij slaap. Dankjewel.
So here we have a Dutch concerned citizen saying to a girl with a baby living in her car, we have a temporary housing for you, and you don't need to sleep on the streets. This is what we want. This is what we need, right? People that support each other, right? Because the people in power, shadow organizations, they are winning the class warfare, right? We know what's going on. We know who the real enemy is. It's not Russia. We talked about this before. So, we're going to close off. I thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys next time.